We're going draft, all right? And we're going with prospects. Early risers and hidden gems, all right? The Senior Bowl practices have wrapped up and new names are emerging on the draft radar. Which prospects helped their stock? Who are potential draft 49ers targets? Plus, we break down the importance of the 30 visit phase in the pre-draft scouting phase. So what we need to do is also explain to those who don't know what 30 visits are. What basically 30 visits are is every team is delineated a set number of visits that they can have with one-on-one, let's call them in-depth interviews with potential candidates that they know are about to be drafted. You only get 30 apiece for all 32 teams, and these are said to be some of the most important guys that teams must know about before or if they pick them. So with that, there's a couple of guys that have emerged, all right, that we have been talking about. All right, you got Mike Green out of Marshall. All right, that's a guy. Okay, you got some names, but let's stick with the 11th overall pick, the pick that matters, the first one. Okay, and before we get into it, there's a guy that everybody knows. We've all been talking about him, but Tom is the first guy to tell me that this is the man that the Niners should be drafting at 1. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to give Tom the floor. And we're going to let Tom get into it. All right. So right now, what I need to do right now is get into what the first round pick should be. Tom, go. I'll take care of the rest.
Okay. The guy that I want is Walter Nolen, the defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Here's why. He's the one pass rusher in this draft that has pass rushing talent. That's unique. That's rare. Everybody else, in terms of their pass rushing ability, great in some cases as run stuffers. Nolen is the one guy that's a legitimate pass rushing defensive tackle that has an elite get off, explosive off the line speed, and here's everything. Explosive first step, yeah. Rare flexibility. He's got the agility of an edge at a defensive tackle. His body is very similar to Quinnen Williams. The frame is almost exactly the same. Violent hands, impressive lateral quickness, relentless motor. He's always going. All of that is absolutely true. We'll have to see what 40 he runs at Indy. That's going to be a key thing. Quinnen Williams ran 4.8. Nolen is a little bit slower. He doesn't finish as well. Nolen needs to add some more power to his frame. He can have some struggles in finishing. Right now he's at 293. Williams was at like 305. He needs to add some of that muscle so that he can finish and do well there. But he's got everything else. There are other people where you can point to their stats and say they've got sacks. Yes, Derek Harmon in Oregon. No first step, 0. He's quick to react to the snap, but he's not explosive off the line at all. A lot of sacks at Oregon, but he doesn't have that first step. Chris Kasarik is going to say, I don't know. So I think that Nolen is the guy. There's a lot of people that saw him live at Mobile and were just blown away. And I think that that's going to continue. The film that I watched of Nolen all year, I was always impressed by him. He's always going. He's always disruptive. You look at Saleh's defenses, and it's DeForest Buckner, Quinnen Williams. It's the two-way defensive tackle that's the centerpiece of his defense. That's what you need first. And if you have that, you can collapse the pocket and then set up the edges to close. So he's the piece that they need. I would be disappointed if they can't get Nolen. I understand if he might go above them. I think that he could. I have him ranked ahead of Mason Graham in what I saw, but that's my take. That's my bias, is that I want pass rushing skills, and I think Nolen has that. I think he's the pick. I think he's who Saleh would want. He's who Saleh would be reminded of with Quinnen Williams. To me, he's the guy.
Hey, you gotta love it, Tom. I couldn't have just. It's a beautiful job, Tom. Beautiful job.
Thanks, Coach.
Explosive player, chaotic player. Watched 4 games on him last night. I got some pushbacks, and I want you to defend your client, sir.
Will do.
One of the things about him is that he plays with exceptional pad level for his height at 6'3". But a lot of that is due to explosiveness on initial contact. Good offensive linemen are not going to let you tee off on them in the NFL. They're not just going to be targets for you to blast through every time. All right. One of the biggest things that I've noticed in college is that when you get a guy as aggressive as Walter Nolen, a lot of times he could just bully his way. That's one thing I love about him. He's got a great churn, awesome feet, drives and generates power through his hips, and has a relentless motor, as we put up in the graphic. But in our defense, you got to keep your gap. You got to play gap integrity, and you can't always be a superstar because you got one of the best linebackers in the NFL playing behind you, and you got to have gap discipline. One thing about him is that he does show occasional lapses in gap discipline when hunting for splash plays. He gets greedy. When he gets a weak body and he knows that he's got a mark in front of him. One thing that I do like about him is that he's a bit of a show punny. He will embarrass you again and again and again. Yeah. And it's rare that you get that type of drive, that type of prey drive in players anymore. Most guys they know they can beat you. They're going to beat you on downs where they know it matters, right? That's not Walter Nolen. If Walter Nolen sees a bone, he's going to whittle it down until it's dust. That's just what it is, all right? Sometimes they may play that against him. How many games have we played against tip of the spear defensive linemen, particularly three techniques, where we've played Aaron Donald and played around him, right? Used his strength against him, used his own aggressiveness against him. My biggest thing for Walter Nolen is that where is his mental? What's his IQ? All right. We already got the box checked on the physicality. Good. We got the box checked on the temperament. Good. We got the box checked on the drive and the endurance. Way to go. Talent moves off the charts. But what are we going to do when somebody forces this dude to change his game? Because that's the league.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the league.
Absolutely. That's very well said.
Right.
One of the weaknesses for Nolen is that he doesn't have the arsenal yet. He needs to add a lot of moves. He's relying a lot on his
bull rush,
on his physical leverage, on the bull rush, and also his quickness, that he can take advantage of his agility to get penetration, get in, get stops beyond the line. So he needs to get coached up by Kasarik. You're supposed to be the get-off champion. Okay. Coach this kid so that he plays lower and still has some kind of game plan. Because right now his game plan is, I just read who I'm going against and how I can beat him physically, and that's what I do. You can get away with that in college. You can't get away with that in the NFL. So I would agree that he plays too high, he stands up, and that he doesn't have a game plan or the arsenal of moves that he's going to need. But the most important thing that you can get in the draft is the clay. You get the physical clay, you can mold it. He's got the clay in spades. He has everything you would want physically. You just have to coach him. So I think that what Nolen needs in terms of succeeding in the league, physically he's already there. It's just that mentally he needs to get a lot better in his game plan and in learning how to beat people in ways outside of his physicality. The other weakness that I think he's got is he doesn't locate the ball carrier well. His vision is poor. And when he's trying to locate somebody, he's slow in his pursuit. So that's another problem, is that he needs to be coached on to where to expect the runner to be and go get him. Because once he's got the target to go after, he can go get him. He can close him down. He's got the speed to do it. It's just that mentally, he needs to get to a point where he can play instinctively. Once he gets to that, he's going to be a beast.